Our question was, what are some strategies EE stakeholders can use to influence policymakers producing a real impact? It was really hard for us, for our group, to answer this question, because we live in different countries. Italy is completely different from northern European countries, and we have different systems to influence government, policymakers. So this is one of our points. Strategies depend on the country, simply. The second, if you want to present it, is to create a standard.
Right. To create an evaluation system for entrepreneurial projects. So, because the difficulty is to underline the benefits of the projects. Because if you work on a project, maybe in Italy, not only in Italy, I think in all over the world, if you want to gain money to support your project, for example, in the bank, you use a business plan. We can try to create a program, a standard program, to underline and to facilitate the overviews of the advantages that you can bring by doing some social and environmental acts, by using also sustainable indicators to underline the advantages. So it's very important to create a standard, okay? To create a standard for
these are the two outputs of our group.
Okay. And a message for policymakers?
Okay. Second topic.
Thank you. Our question was, what are methods and tools entrepreneurship education stakeholders can use to pressure policymakers to make something, to make a real change, to create a real impact. And for us, the most important practical thing that stakeholders in this field could do is invite policymakers to attend and to be more involved, like invite them to our project, to our events, presenting our projects, so that they can see and experiment what can be done in this field. And another way to push them, to pressure them, is like creating a petition and inviting people to sign the petition and then hand the petition, the result of the petition to policymakers. And another thing is, another tool could be make them accountable and monitor them, because sometimes the policies are already written. There are policies, and sometimes they're good, but in practice they are not. How can you say?
Effective.
They're not effective. Yes. They are not effective. So entrepreneurship education stakeholders can monitor them and ask them, okay, you were supposed to do this, but what have you done? Have you done this? Have you done that? We asked you to do this, and make them more accountable. And another very important thing is be more involved in the writing of policies. The stakeholders, EE stakeholders, know what to do, know how these policies should be written, how these policies should be done, and so they have to pressure policymakers, institutions, to be more involved, to involve people who benefit from their work. I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's all.
Luca for the third subgroup.
So our existential question was, what can entrepreneurship education stakeholders do to urge policymakers valorize entrepreneurship education? So we understood this question as what us, I mean we are all representatives of stakeholders, can do to influence, to advocate for our interest, probably in a fair way, in trying to have a collective representation of our needs. So we have some general, let's say, observation, and then two specific examples of how to try to transfer this information to valorize the entrepreneurship and education environment. So I think there is a part of responsibility of a policymaker, either if it's public policymaker or a collective policymaker coming from the society, social economy, philanthropies, to try to engage different stakeholders. I know this is quite obvious, but I think we still need to mark it in order not to have a one-to-one relationship, but trying to have, let's say, collective processes of gaining information on how to valorize hypothetical services or any kind of policy. This is a methodology reflection. And then also something we should take care of is also trying to involve media, not only social media, any kind of media targeting different segment of the population, trying to have this process of advocacy open the most that we can, otherwise it becomes not an open process. As example, like trying to engage in schools, we think that it was quite inspirational what we have seen today. So the idea of trying to put together students from schools into actual project of social entrepreneurship, we find on like this kind of experimental education something that is really valuable, not only on the direction from social entrepreneurs to students, but also all the way around. I think the role of mediators is something that should be also something that we should in a way consider, because mediators are able to bridge the relationship between students, social enterprises, and trying to make an educational module out of it. And then the last one is opening a business school to the many and not the few. Usually business schools and entrepreneurship education is they are hardly connect, like for a student, a potential student, a potential recipient also of vocational education paths. It's hard to find like having an idea of what are the different options. So maybe policymakers should take into account the creation of platforms where they put together all the courses for different targets with different costs, different time engagement, and different kind of targets. So having them all together in a platform that is connected to vocational training processes, I think it can be a valuable thing to do. And that's it.
To help us to understand what we can ask to policy.
Yes, we were just talking about what could we advise the politicians. And we were talking about that so many young people are getting depressed and have angst and don't really get to their goals somehow. So we were talking about we have to give them more time. In Denmark we have the problem right now that they're cutting 1 year of the university. So you have 3 years as a bachelor and then just 1 year as a master. I mean, they cut 1 year, and we are getting, all the young people are getting pressed in this system, and we have so many diseases in this way. If we're going to have a strong youth, we have to give them time to reflect, and time to learn, and time to find themselves and the autonomy. All the Italians here have written, I think, Susanna Tamaro, Va dove ti porta il cuore. And that book is so wise in that way that it tells us that if you come to a crossway and don't know where to go, don't just choose a way, that you haven't thought about or you don't know where to go. Sit down that crossway and think, reflect, and just sit there until you can hear your heartbeat. When you can hear your heartbeat, then rise and go where your heart brings you. We want more time to get people educated and to get self-esteem, because that is what you have to have if you're going to reach your goal. Yeah.
More time.